waiting for the National Policy Statement for Renewable Electricity Generation, which was due in June this year. But finally, at last, here comes the Offshore Renewable Energy Bill. And we do need legislation to govern the construction, operation and decommissioning of offshore renewable energy developments. So we will support this bill to Select Committee because we want a rich and thoughtful examination of this bill. The irony, however, is that National's Electrify New Zealand plan is now so far off track, in no small measure due to reneging on the promise to increase demand by supplying 9,000 EV charging points, and its failure to deliver the National Policy Statement for Renewable Electricity Generation in June, and its one-eyed fixation on fast-tracking coal mines, gold mines and seabed mining. So seabed mining is, of course, incompatible with offshore wind development, and that's why Blue Float sailed away. Seabed mining will significantly disrupt the seafloor, up to a depth of 11 metres, and Blue Float said offshore wind turbines and electrical cables could not be constructed in the same location as an active seabed mining operation, resulting in the unavailability of that zone for offshore wind generation for the duration of mining activities. And we've seen a request to make those mining activities a 35-year existence. Copenhagen infrastructure partners, in partnership with the New Zealand Super Fund, are still hanging on, but we don't know for how long. And that's an early taste of the disaster that is the fast-track legislation, and it's no wonder that there are protests. Here in the House, it's no wonder that multinationals are leaving. And meanwhile, we in the Greens do have many questions about offshore wind, and we want to have that conversation. Our priority is onshore wind and solar and geothermal, simply because it is faster, cheaper, less resource-intensive and with fewer environmental impacts than offshore wind, and it can also be located close to where there is demand and provides for ease of maintenance. What we like in this bill, however, are the provisions around decommissioning, particularly the financial security obligations to ensure that the decommissioning of offshore renewable energy infrastructure occurs at the expense of the permit holder and owners of related transmission infrastructure. And there are other positives, such as safety zones. However, we do want to know how necessary this is and how it will be managed, as other offshore wind developments support local businesses, like boat operators, local guides, providing an alternative source of income and a diversified tourism offer. The two-stage permitting regime, feasibility first, followed by, if appropriate, commercial permits, is also a positive. What needs greater clarity, however, is how te tiriti obligations will be met, and what is the process to co-develop with Māori the national guidance and legislation, because it appears that this legislation hasn't gone through this process and only intends to consult with Māori groups before granting any permit, and consultation is very different to co-development. Meanwhile, the RIS notes that tangata whenua, iwi and hapu have significant rights and interests in the marine area, including recognised customary interests, cultural and economic interests, etc. And we want to see these interests upheld. And we're also concerned that the existing RMA and Exclusive Economic Zone Act consenting environmental assessment regimes are not robust or effective enough at protecting marine ecosystems or mammals. And what about other technologies such as tidal generation? So there are a number of questions. There's another big question that we want to see at Select Committee about port infrastructure to host offshore wind developments and connecting offshore wind and energy to onshore connection points. The question of who pays. Will the taxpayer be expected to foot the bill, or will they do it? And in parallel, will we have a reinvention of the electricity market to provide longer-term hedge contracts? Mr. Speaker, we will support this bill to Select Committee because we want a rich and thoughtful examination. Thank you.
Yeah, so Scott is right. I checked the claims that he made. So he claimed that Blue Float said that offshore wind turbines and electrical cables cannot be constructed in the same location as an active seabed mining operation. Yeah, that is correct. That is one of the reasons why they left. And that was actually put in a briefing paper to government ministers. And it wasn't just Blue Float Energy. It was also the Elemental Group, Taranaki Offshore Partnership, Sumitomo Corporation and Parkwind. So, yeah, a seabed mining project is expected to significantly disrupt the seabed floor up to a depth of 11 metres. Offshore wind turbines and electrical cables could not be constructed in the same location as an active seabed mining operation, resulting in the unavailability of that zone for offshore wind generation for the duration of mining activities. So, yeah, so you can't have two things in the same area. It won't work.
I mean, it's also like this is something not on the same topic, but deals with electrical cables. There's a section of the Cook Strait you cannot actually anchor. And it's to do with the Cook Strait electricity cables.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so that's not the only thing. That also, a minor thing that comes with that is the fact that you cannot necessarily anchor your boat in the area when you're near a, was it offshore wind turbine.
Yeah.